I'm so excited because this is our first episode of the Embodied Woman podcast with Amber Sousa and myself, Siri Baruch Thornton.
Yay!
Amber, tell me about our first guest because I actually haven't met her yet.
Well, my dear friend Heidi Revay, I have known her for many years. In fact, when I opened my first fitness studio in 2011, she taught for me. So we've both been in the fitness and wellness industry for many, many years. And she was one of my most popular, most adored and loved instructors. And we've both kind of journeyed from fitness and wellness into more of like the, spirituality and personal development worlds. And her work, she's the girl. I mean, you like find her on Instagram and she's the one that's posting things that some of us are like, that make us blush, about like sexuality and pleasure and tantra and embodiment. And so when you and I were talking about wanting to do this series, she was one of the first women that I thought of because I was like, she's an expert in
I,
all the things that we want to talk about.
I can't wait. It's so funny because depending on where you are in your sensual slash sexual journey, depends on how you react to that. Because there was a period in my life where I might have shied away or might have judged or might have been like, oh, that's a lot. And
Yeah.
now where I am in my journey as a woman, my kids are 10 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in that phase of like wiping butts so much anymore.
Right. Yeah. Mine are 9 and 11. No,
Right.
no
It's
wiping butts.
I feel like that's probably, I'm just making a guess that when women get to that point where like their kids are kind of doing most of the stuff for themselves, for the most
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
that we finally have the freedom to, at least for me anyway, to like kind of rediscover who we are as a fully embodied woman, like as a someone who's birthed humans,
Right.
like
Right.
really understands her power
Right.
in a different way, understands how to like take care of other humans and like nurture and bring them into the world. I feel like there's just a difference in like how you show up in your body and like I'm interested to hear what she says about like body issues and accepting
Mm-hmm.
our bodies and loving our bodies how they are for the way that they are. But anyway, point being is just like I'm so ready to just let go of shame
Yes.
and like
Absolutely.
just enjoy sensuality and sexuality and my power as a woman. Like I'm so ready for that. I feel like
I'm
you've
so
been
ready
on
for
that
that
journey
too.
for a while.
Well, it's funny, in my class, my plyo gym class, my empowered dance class that I've been teaching, um, I feel like I'm getting more and more comfortable owning my sensuality, my sexuality. And like I've even had, other women who have been with me for a while going, "Oh, Amber, like you're really like extra feisty today. You're like extra spicy and fiery." And I'm like, because for a long time I think that I through conditioning, like many of
Mm.
us, had learned to tone that down
Yes.
because of fear of judgment, particularly of other women. Like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm showing off or being too sexy. And now when I teach my class, my whole thing is let me like exude sensuality and sexuality in a way that is fun and playful and empowered and embodied, and do it so that I can inspire other women to feel comfortable doing it too.
Yeah, like
So
liberate
it's like a
your
whole, yeah,
liberation is their liberation. And
absolutely.
it's so interesting because it's the women that are the ones that are judging each other. The men aren't so much judging if you're fully embodied or in your sensuality and sexuality as much as
Well,
I feel
men,
like the women
yeah,
are.
men aren't shamed for being promiscuous or too sexy or nobody, like
Yes.
you never
Yes.
hear somebody say like, did you see what that guy was wearing? I mean, hardly ever, right? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's something that we've heard growing up, like, did you see what she was wearing? Or, oh my God, I wouldn't wear that, or just silly comments like that.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
we've kind of been conditioned to judge and carry shame around that. And
Yes.
so I think one of the big reasons why we're wanting to do this podcast series is to really empower women to take back the ownership of their own sensuality and their own like power in a way that feels really good and whole, you know?
Yeah, I used to judge other women if they were too comfortable in their bodies in the way that they dressed, especially if it was around family.
Mm-hmm.
This is my work that I'm just sharing is like I did not want to look sexy or feel sexy in front of my dad or my stepdad or my grandfather or my brother. Like that was a thing. And
Right. Yeah.
and also I was thinking about what you were saying is like, you know, the conditioning of don't be too sexual and embodied because then you could be inviting something you don't want to be inviting in. So I'm
Right.
curious what Heidi has to say about that.
Me too. I know she's got like some gold to share with us about this exact topic, which is why she's the first person, the first woman that I was like, she's, we made a list. Siri and I were like, we want to do this. And I made a list and Heidi was on the top of the list. I was like, she's the one that I got to reach out to. And she said yes right away because she is as passionate as we are and as deeply curious as we are, to figure out why we've been the way we've been and how we can transcend that and move into the most embodied version of ourselves. So, shall we bring Heidi on?
Yeah.
She's here with us. She's gorgeous. Oh my God.
Hi.
You are
Oh, I'm so
beautiful.
excited.
Oh,
Thank
hi.
you.
I
Oh, this
love
is
you.
awesome. I just want to do these kinds of things all the time.
Yes. Well, so do we.
Talk and share and talk and yeah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were just sharing a little bit about, kind of what prompted us in our lives to want to start this podcast and how we are both on a journey of becoming the most embodied versions of ourselves and how important it is for us to empower other women. And I know for you, that's also incredibly important. Before we dive into the questions that we loosely will have, I just want to do a little introduction and then I'll share your bio so that our listeners can learn a little bit about you before we dive in, if that's okay with you ladies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So Heidi, I was telling Siri, Heidi and I have known each other for many years. And in 2011, when I opened up my first fitness and wellness studio, Heidi was one of my most beloved and popular instructors because she and I have both been in the fitness and wellness business for many years and have also kind of like side by side moved into this new space. Like we're both still in fitness. We both still teach classes, but we have kind of found more of our calling in the work that we're doing today. And so it's been really fun to watch her move into this. And I was telling Siri, Heidi, like a lot of the, mutual people that we know have watched you over the years. And if you're following you on Instagram, you get into it. And it makes some people uncomfortable because not everybody's super comfortable with talking about pleasure and, all the things. So I'm super excited to get into that. And I'm going to go ahead and read your bio and then I think we'll just dive in because I want to start hearing from you. Okay, so Heidi Revay is a guide for all things love, relationships, intimacy, sex, embodiment, and owning your true power. For most of her life, embodiment, sexuality, and intimacy were foreign concepts. Like many of us, Heidi was shaped by religion, Western medicine, patriarchal systems, and fear. Her journey began 20 years ago with empowering people through fitness, and it slowly evolved into studying sexuality, tantra, conscious love, and relationships. Heidi loves helping women own the parts of themselves they've been taught to shame, like sexuality, pleasure, and empowering them to stand for their deeper desires and longings for awakened love and partnership.
Thank you.
I want that.
I feel like my bio changes every 6 months, but
I'm like, yes, please. I would like awakened love and partnership. Sign me up right now.
I know we all do, right? And we want to just go right into it. We don't a lot of us don't realize, like, as I'm on my own journey, like, wow, you gotta go through all the bullshit and all the shadows and all the things that block us from love. And that's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We all have, our own journeys with that.
So I'm curious, what's a significant experience for you, Heidi, that you were never the same after, that's shaped you?
I just had this conversation with a client the other day. So when I dove into my sex, love, and relationship training with Layla Martin, and we basically had to have pleasure practices every day. And I didn't understand why. It was like there was a lot of resistance. I'd lay there with my oil and my toys and my music and all the things. And I didn't get it. And then slowly, over enough practice and time, like understanding what our bodies are capable of in the realms of pleasure. And it's like this part of us no one can touch. No one has any power over this part of us, although they try to. And I believe that's why they try to, because it opens this doorway to this like fierce power. And not power as in power over, but this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And you're like, wow, I have this within me. And it doesn't even have to be with another person. It's like there's this studying your sexuality and your pleasure and what our bodies are capable of has been monumental with all the work I've done, starting at like 22 with Landmark. This was the most, still to this day, exponential transformation in my life. And it still is. Yeah.
Amazing. So do you do you mentioned like I think you said a vibrator and oil, and is that what you said?
They actually pulled us away from vibrators.
Okay.
Because a vibrator, as women have been conditioned, programmed to have orgasm and pleasure like a man. So a man is more of that like spontaneous desire. They don't need a lot. Women are more of a reactional desire, like they respond, and that's how they get turned on. And so when we have access to a vibrator, which I'll still use mine every once in a while, I'm not like fully against them, but I for years stopped using one because it gets your body from 0 to 60 in such a short amount of time. And where a woman really has access to this deeper spiritual realm and deeper orgasmic bliss, and basically like that connection to the divine, takes a lot longer than 0 to 60. That's why they say a woman really takes like 20 to 40 minutes to fully open her body. We have, just the same amount of erectile tissue as a man does. And it takes a long time to engorge and to really allow us to get to that pleasure state. And so with a vibrator, it takes us out of that. It completely misses that expansion and it goes straight for the clitoral, which is great, but there's so much more in there. And so they pulled us away from vibrators, and we had to learn just first breast massage and oil, and learning just to like love our breasts, because myself, I had my boobs done at 23, and it was like more of like the status or the sex symbol to be the seductress, whatever the conditioning was then. And I had no connection to my breasts. And so through this, it's like, well, there was a lot of numbness, or why am I doing this? And you learn that there's like a woman opens through her heart. And so we started with breast massage, which helps us open through heart. And that gives us a safe place or a more welcoming place to really lean into more pleasure. And after that, then we'd move into like full body massage or just thighs, or exploring just like, the structure of pussy, whether it's outside, inside. And then we'd have toys like the glass wand was still one of my favorites. And then a yoni egg. So nothing to do with vibration at all, strictly just to get, and this also helps sensitize your body. The more that you
Yeah,
can
I was just gonna
sensitize.
say that because like I know when I've gone through phases with a vibrator that it numbs me to be able to have an orgasm with my husband. Like then I have to rely on the vibrator. If I'm
Yeah. And you're not alone in that. Like that's a lot with clients that I see, like, I can't even have sex without my vibrator. And I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we don't want to shame anyone, but there's more that you can have access to.
yeah.
I think that's so fascinating. And, I have to be honest, there's still a little girl part of me that's like, oh, she said that word, or she's talking about oh my God. Like, it's so, I mean, I feel very comfortable and confident, but also there's still that aspect of me. And I think probably a lot of women who hear those words out loud, there's a part that's still like, oh my God, can we say that out loud? But I like it. I like that that you are normalizing it and making it a conversation that we can have without shame. And I also think it's so fascinating. Like, who knew that massaging your breasts was actually also connected to heart opening? I love that. Because as a
Mm.
woman, like, our heart is our most beautiful gift, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when we bring our heart into the act of lovemaking or wherever, it's more embodied, more embodied
Mm.
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that
like
goes back to the vibrator, like when we start to pull that away and get it into like more sensitivity, you're more embodied, you can feel more, you have access to more. And then that goes right into the theme of that embodiment. What does that mean? And it's really sensitizing all parts of you.
there's such a
Oh,
difference between having sex when your heart is intentionally open and when your heart is not open. It's so different. They're both good in different ways, but I feel like it's just so different.
Yeah. Yeah. I got, for a while, once going through this training, I only wanted to have sex with heart open. I only wanted that slow, give me 2 hours, like, let's take our time. And then I had to like kind of almost reprogram that, like, oh, wait, with a quickie is good too, but it's just not going to have the same effect.
Yeah, it all has its place.
Mm-hmm.
well, that brings me to another question. Like, you're talking about your own personal experiences. Like, I would love if you would like to share some of your own life experiences that kind of make you the expert now on what you teach women.
Yeah. Well, the straw that broke the camel's back that had me dive down this portal was I was in a long-term relationship, and I knew I loved him. Like, I loved him so much, but there was like this sexual anxiety from him that I just didn't understand. And for a man, when they have sexual anxiety, it shows in their genitals. For a woman, when we have sexual anxiety, we know from the inside, but our genitals don't really show that, maybe in a lack of wetness, but to culture, to our society, a woman, you could always pretend, and a man can't, because it affects the outside of him. Like, it shows in his cock, whether he's hard or whether he, premature ejaculation. And so I didn't understand that. I thought that, well, aren't I hot? Like, don't you want sex with me? And, I came from a marriage earlier on where we were swingers, and it was all about, being a seductress. And so I went from that to this beautiful, loving, safe, monogamous relationship. And it was a struggle. I would leave the bedroom in tears. We'd start sex. And as soon as we were like getting to like the climax, it was, he'd lose his erection, or he would have, premature ejaculation. And I'd be like, what is wrong? And I caused trauma because I didn't understand and would make him wrong for it. And
Hmm.
then we wouldn't have sex. And there was no sex at all. And it just became very painful, or we couldn't even come to like the bedroom without it being something. And so I was like, I'm going to start studying this. And I started to study tantra with a woman, Sami Zadora, who's no longer around. She passed. And that was like a light bulb that started to turn on. And then that went into women's studies. And then that followed into Layla Martin. I found a YouTube video and I'm like, I like this woman. Oh, she has a coaching certification. I'm going to study this so that I can fix this. And that opened my eyes to like wanting to fix our surface problem and him, to a giant mirror to myself, how I'd been raised, what my identities were around sex, what my shadows were around sex. And so it was this big, like, whoa, this is so much about what I'm bringing into the bedroom. And so through this journey of studying, we were able to heal that and come full circle to beautiful sexual experiences. And he was able to heal through the practices for men. And it was like we were able to like go, okay, we did this thing. And so when we parted ways and ended our relationship, it was like, you know what? There's so much love because we came together to do this, and we can say goodbye in such a beautiful way.
That's so beautiful. Mm.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
You like opened a portal for yourself through that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
discovered who you were and healed through it and grew together. It's beautiful.
Thank
So
I
do
you.
love
you,
that about us women, that we have this we're like, I see a problem, like, I'm gonna figure out how to fix my man or my whatever, and then it becomes, this whole thing, and
Which, yeah,
our life
yeah,
purpose, and then we end up learning about ourselves, like, oh, there's actually stuff about me that is a part of this.
yeah, right. I mean, I'm learning that now in my new relationship. I'm like, oh, this is not just about their problem. Which is why I love relationship work as well.
it's me.
Mhm.
So Heidi, when do you feel the most embodied as a woman? What are those moments for you?
Hmm. I
Or
feel like there's many
actually,
moments. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
no, actually, I took Amber's question. I meant to ask you, what does being an embodied woman mean to you? Let's back up to that.
Feeling everything. That there are no parts of me that are bad or I need to push down, that I can feel, whether it's my anger, my sadness, my grief, my joy, and I can turn it up, and I can really allow that to come through me with expression. And even my anger, like, how can I show my anger and my grief through my heart, through an opened place, through in my body instead of this mind and words. That's embodiment to me. I have a really fierce connection with my intuition, my wisdom that I trust, like that inner oracle that they talk about, the awakened feminine and her inner oracle. I'm like, I get that now, because the more sensitivity that I've welcomed or allowed, the more I can hear my higher self, my inner oracle, whatever we want to call it. It's like, oh, that's what that is. And I trust it, instead of in the past, I doubt it right away with my mind. And I'm not perfect. It still happens. Like, I'm still like, oh no, that's not true. No, 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 I can't do that. No, no, I can't say that. So that's what embodiment means to me.
When you were describing it, I was like, no wonder men are intimidated because just watching you describe that, I was like, damn, she's powerful. Yes. Oh, I love
We
it.
all are, right? We all have this, like,
Yeah.
fierceness to us, but also that is how we invite our men into their quote unquote potential, or what we see in them. Like it's done through an awakened woman. A woman awakens. I remember reading a quote. I don't know who it was by. A woman finds her queen, or embodies her queen, and a man embodies his king through an awakened woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really just feel into that no, it's my responsibility not to tell him, what he's doing, which is what I've done a lot of. You need to fix this. Now it's like I get to be an initiatress, is what I learned that word, and I love that. Like we get to initiate people into their power.
Yeah, instead of controlling, inviting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
That's
I
part of
love
that
that.
embodiment. Yeah.
I think too, that makes me think about just wanting to like distinguish, because I know that for me, much of my life, I saw men that I thought needed my love and my help in order to heal. But once I got into that situation, I wasn't coming from my most embodied place. I would become a disembodied version of myself, and then try to like, help them heal at that, in that kind of dynamic. And that never worked. So I just want to distinguish that, because what you're saying is we invite men into their highest potential through us embodying our highest version, our most embodied self, our most empowered self, our most divine, feminine, intuitive, open-hearted self, right? And then that's when we can be more impactful and powerful with men, right? Because
Yeah.
I tried the other way many, many times, and that did not work. So
Well, and like we're not these perfect humans that get it right every time. We are those, human beings doing this journey. I mean, even with all this, experience and work that I had in a previous relationship, and as I went into a new relationship this last year, Amber, you've heard lots about it. You forget with a new relationship, with new struggles, you forget that you are like, oh wait, tap back into that power. What do I need to do to get back into my body, to take a stand for my desires, and to not be scared of losing love or losing belonging, because you do have a voice and you do have desires that are on your heart that are for you, but we forget because we have that core need of love and safety and belonging. And those are
well,
threatened when we stand up for what it is we want, or
yeah.
can be threatened, I should say.
um I want to kind of go back just before I move on to the next question, because in your bio it talked about how you were shaped by religion and Western medicine and patriarchal systems and fear. And when we get into relationship, um, oftentimes this old conditioning, right? It rises up, or it gets triggered. And so then we have to kind of learn how to practice this new way of being embodied in relationships. So will you share a little bit about that? Like how you've noticed that your past conditioning has affected you in relationships, and then how you navigate that now?
Yeah. So I was raised, my mom is Mormon. My dad was an alcoholic. Oh, am I losing? It says I'm losing connection.
I can hear you.
Hopefully not. You guys got me still?
Yes.
I think you're okay.
Okay. My dad was an alcoholic, and I was the oldest of five. And so right away I became that people pleasing, caretaking, over functioning little girl, because that's where I got my recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a mother who brought me to church every Sunday, or all of us every Sunday. And I learned that, you don't even touch your body. You can't even masturbate. Like that's when the devil comes in, and you need to, wear Mormon clothing that covers your shoulders and goes to your knees, and no showing your midriff, and you're going to give men the wrong idea. So with that, with, no sex before marriage and all the things. And then I had a father who, because of his probably experience, I'm guessing, if I wore anything like lace or, I wanted a black bra, I remember at one time, and it was like, no, absolutely not. That don't be a whore. That's a slutty thing to wear. I would get yelled at if I wore something that was too revealing because of his fear of his only daughter, like being a sex object. And so I had these two different opposing, but not opposing ways that I was raised, and I rebelled. I rebelled against them. I would walk out the house and roll my shirt up and wear my midriff clothes, and short shorts. And so then the rebellion led me into a marriage, where, it was an open marriage, and we went to sex parties, and that was a form of rebellion. Now looking back on it, because I was rebelling against that. And with our childhood, we do three things. We learn to acquiesce, people please, rebel, and can't even remember the last one. I want to say it's something like withdraw or avoid. And so I learned to rebel and to people please. And so there was that marriage that was based off just rebelling, that fizzled. And then into my relationship with Mr. Hawaii, where I started to study sexuality, it was still just seeing this like over functioning, how I overfunction in relationship. I am the one that dives into the work more. I am the one that does more caretaking. I am the one that does more people pleasing. And I got to really meet those parts of myself in that relationship. And then jump ahead to the relationship I'm in now, who I'm with a man who struggles with addiction. And, I'm told, oh, you need to get out of that, and and it's like, well, no, I'm actually not becoming this little girl who daddy was, who I was so scared of dad when he was in his addiction. Now I'm actually gaining more power and more fierceness and more embodiment, because I have a man who struggles with addiction, but a man who is wanting to work and do the work with me and wanting to rise. But I can easily fall back into that childhood, like over functioning. So I have to really be mindful of, am I over functioning? Do I need to take a step back? Which is also embodying the feminine of, you lean back so that they can lean in, because the more a woman does, the more a man will allow them to do. So is that making sense? Did I answer that question right?
That's great.
Yes. Siri and I actually often talk about, we'll ask, like, we'll share something that we're going through, and we'll say, okay, does that feel like it's our like teenage wounded girl, or is that like the empowered woman? Where is that coming from? And it helps kind of identify where certain thoughts or behaviors are coming from. So yeah, I love hearing about that.
And Amber, I love how what you do is you'll say, well, how did that feel? When you said that, or when you did that, how did that feel for you? You're not like, well, I see this as this. You're just like, well, what did that feel like for you? And you invite me to look at, oh, well, that did feel embodied, or no, that actually felt really disempowering when I did that, even though I thought I was just being heart open. Yeah, that's great.
Which is what we need more of.
So
more
tools.
People that ask you.
I'm curious about, the swinger relationship versus the monogamous relationship, but I'm also wanting to ask you about tools. So maybe you could address both of those things if you feel like it.
The swinger relationship,
like, what have you learned?
was not me and my truth.
Okay.
It was not purely, but it was a lot of just rebelling and saying, fuck you, system, or childhood, this is what I'm going to do. It was not safe. I did not feel like, because there were other people in our relationship, and I learned that open relationships or non-monogamy is not for me. Through this monogamous relationship next, it was complete and beautiful safety. And with safety is where we get to really find ourselves, is where we get to really understand what love is. I believe, I know I'm going to have a lot of people that don't agree with that, because also through safety is where you can find deeper intimacy. When there's other partners or other people in your relationship, you've always got to, I'm not happy with this situation, so let's go to a party and let's go have fun and let's leak our sexual energy, let's leak our bodies to other people. And so when you don't have that, you're almost forced to look at each other and to work through whatever the thing is. And so that means more vulnerability, more intimacy. But yeah, short answer, one felt safe, one didn't.
At the time, did you feel like you were being empowered, and then you look back and you're like, oh, actually, that was disempowering? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we divorced when I was 15 years ago, about. So it was a long time ago. And I thought there was no harm. Like, oh yeah, that was that. It was like, I got some good stories. Yeah, whatever. And in this last year, I've been able to do some deeper somatic release work around, wow, no, there might be some trauma there for what I witnessed and what I allowed. But I didn't realize it till this many years later.
Thank you for sharing so vulnerably.
Yeah.
I know. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm curious about tools that you use when you find those moments. You said, we're not perfect. So when you find yourself in a moment of disempowered energy or not trusting your intuition, what are the first few things that you go to get yourself back into a place of embodiment and empowerment and trusting that intuition?
Yeah, I've been invited into this a lot lately, is when I'm in the mind or the stress or the disembodied state, I'm in my mind. I'm trying to figure it out. And so that is purely patterns, past wounds, anxious thoughts. And so my first practice is to get into my body. And how I do that is through the study of tantra. It's sitting with yourself, feeling it. Where does this sensation show up in my body? And then literally giving it sound and breath and movement. And through that sound and breath and movement, I'm letting it move. I'm letting it speak. Usually I realize, wow, I've been holding so much in, and there's tears and there's rage. And so I'll either cry, I'll punch a pillow, I'll have like pillow work with whoever I'm having an issue with, so that I get to scream and talk and move it. And then that brings me back to my heart. That brings me back to my power, because it's no longer up here. Now I'm back in my body. Another tool is the sacred sexuality practices. So I'll lay with music, my breath, some coconut oil, my glass wand or the jade egg. And once I'm in those orgasmic waves of pleasure, it like brings me back into this like, oh yeah, did you forget who you were? Did you forget? Oh, okay, I'm good. And I will be honest, I haven't done one of those in probably about a month, because I have been a lot back in the mind. And what's one easy practice I can do? It's a sound, breath, and movement. Sometimes that pleasure practice has a lot more resistance to it, still to this day. And then dancing. Dancing is an immediate, as Amber knows, like you got shit you're working with. I mean, I turn on some music, and as Kathy Heller starts every one of her calls, I mean, there's a reason for it. So those are just some simple practices that I do.
You are speaking our language. This is what we do. This is what we offer. Both of, but you
Yeah.
know, because I offer mountain breathwork infused with Reiki, and we do a primal scream, and we do moaning, toning, groaning, sighing, expressing. And when I take
Oh,
my own class, I get sexual with myself, and I enjoy it, and it's great. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's who I am, just like you said. And I know Amber is just the most incredible dance expert, and so you're talking our language.
Yeah,
mm,
okay, so this is like, I think one of probably the, if I could say like a biggest takeaway to our listeners, like when you just said like, oh yeah, there I am. This is who I am. Like I forgot. I think that's the definition of embodied, is like remembering who I am. And yes, absolutely, without fail, every single time I move my body and dance, it brings me back. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is who I am. Yeah, right? Like, and even this morning, like I woke up and I was just kind of in this frenzied mom, get the kids out of, out of the house for school. And I got to the dance studio and the room was full of women waiting to dance with me. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is what it's about. I'm here. And as soon as I started moving my body and watching the other women dance with me,
mm.
tuning into our gifts, like that's also, I think, being an embodied woman is like really being in alignment with our gifts. And I know when I'm dancing and I'm inviting other women to tune into that frequency of the truth of who they are, there's just nothing like it. Yes. Oh my God. I have a question, because you use the word tantra and it's also in your bio, and I don't know a lot about tantra, and I think a lot of people think of like Sting and his wife and like having sex for like 50 hours. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's what tantra. So I would love to know a little bit more. I know it's a whole thing, but like, can you share a little bit about what that even is?
Yeah, yeah. And the reason why we go to that, oh, sex thought is because like most methodologies, religions, you know, ancient texts don't include sex and sexuality, and tantra includes it. And so that's why we think, oh, sex, and we say tantra, when really no, that's just a part of all of these many limbs. And tantra is about including all parts of you. All parts of you are welcome: your rage, your grief, your sexuality, your pleasure, all of it. And so it's really uniting every single piece of you. We don't leave any part out. That's the short of tantra.
Interesting.
How have I not gotten into this more? My whole world is about like all of me. I got to start studying tantra. This is my next phase.
And
Yeah, I've never
there
heard
are,
it described that way. That's fascinating.
Yeah, love
I mean,
that.
that's kind of my take on it. Is it's really about just welcoming every single part of you. That there's no part of you that is bad. There's no part of you that is wrong. It's, oh, I see this part. What does it need? Okay, I'm going to bring it into me. It's part of me. We've got dark shadows, which are the parts that we don't necessarily like. And then we have these golden shadows, which are also like, yeah, I was raised to be this beautiful overfunctioner, caretaker, responsible one, but those are also golden shadows because I've been praised for those. And so it's really about the dark and the light and bringing everything in and celebrating it all. And they do that through a lot of that expression, that full bodied sound, breath, movement. But there's also a lot more to it, like worshiping deities, sacred texts. There's so much. It really is a full lifestyle. It's not just I'm going to go to church or I'm going to go to yoga. It's like it's all of it. It's a way of life.
It's
A
a
full
way of life.
philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. What's
I
your
think,
favorite? Sorry, go ahead, Amber.
oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that when we think about embodiment too, it's also exactly what you just said, like the integration and the invitation of all parts of ourselves are welcome. and like bringing that and being embodied, embodying all parts of ourselves, not shaming parts of us, like welcoming, inviting, and integrating all of who we are. That is embodiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, what are your favorite ways to, ways of facilitating for others or helping others with all of this?
Great question. Because my work and offers so far have been only one-on-one for the most part. I really enjoy that, 4 to 6 month journey with one woman where we get to work through all the many, many things. And we have this large container to do it. But as of late, I've been really called to hold live space. So I'm in the works of planning retreat. I'm in the works of doing a group membership where, we meet every single week for a 2-hour call, and then you have a one-on-one. But before, it's only been one-on-one work. But I keep visualizing myself like barefoot with this like room, or outdoors with people like in this full bodied expression and celebration. And I think that's going to be next.
Nice. That's so exciting. Great. Well, is there anything specific that you want to share about your work that the listeners can click into or be invited into?
I mean, I do most of my sharing today on Instagram. And I've been a little quiet as I've been moving through my own death and rebirth, with, I'd say, in the last mainly 6 months. And so my next offering is this group course, or not even a course, group membership, where if you want to come, you want to join us for a month, and then you want to leave, you want to come in and out of it. Like, there's no contracts. Like, I really want to create this online space where that's, most of my clients are that strong and independent woman, where she can rest, where she can let down her guard, where she can like just be in all of her and feel supported and celebrated in all those parts. Yeah, one-on-one, and then this course or this membership. And then look for retreats in the new year. It's coming January, February.
Retreats. What about a podcast? We're doing the Kathy Heller.
Oh yeah, we're in that
podcast
Kathy Heller
course together.
So I was originally going to do this on my own, and I kept getting this nudge. I have a girlfriend who she's from Hawaii, and she now lives in Newport Beach, and we meet every once in a while for these walks, and our conversations are on fire, and they're just there's a lot of passion between us when we talk. I'm like, hey, I keep getting this nudge for you to co-host this podcast with me. And at first she said no, and then now she just said yes. So we're having our first call next week. It will be called Midlife Exposed. And it will be all things. She brings in like the health and wellness side, and I bring in what I've just been sharing, and we're just going to bring it all together. So it's really like we'll cover all the bases.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to hear that for sure. Do you ever work?
Is so fun. Siri and I have been having a blast teaming up and creating things together. Mm-hmm.
I know. I find that I like the collaborating a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being a solopreneur is sometimes hard, and it's nice to like inspire each other and bounce things off of each other and get excited together about creation, and we just 10x each other's. I'm just curious, have you ever worked with couples, and are you interested in doing that?
Yes, I have worked with couples. It's been mainly in the beginning, it was single men and single women. Lately, it's just been single women, but then I'm just starting to get more couples come to me. And now I offer a VIP live day in person, where we move through actual embodiment intimacy practices in like a day kind of retreat. But yeah, couples. I kind of got intimidated for a little while. I was like, can I really do this? And I started to doubt myself. And own experiences, because I feel like I do my best work in relationships. I'm like, okay, it's time. Let's do it. So yeah,
Nice.
couples as well.
Very cool. What's your Instagram handle?
My name, Heidi, Heidi, my last name, Revay, Revay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also a website.
I love it. Oh my God. I feel like I could ask so many more questions, like details about what you do, but you're so bold and fierce. One of the things I just adore about you, Heidi, is you're so fierce and you're so bold and you're so sexy and you're so like unapologetic about everything that you know and that you have learned. And you're also one of the like softest, kindest space holders that I know. Like we've had, an online chat room with, another friend of ours, and you are such a beautiful space holder. And you provide a very safe environment.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I love that. And I love seeing whenever I go on your Instagram and you're like doing your dancing, I'm like, oh, she's so on fire.
Thank you. Thank you for this
Goddess.
invitation.
You are a goddess.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to hearing more from you guys too in your podcasts.
Yeah, of course. And I just want to, maybe we've covered everything, but Heidi, is there anything that feels just juicy or on your heart that you didn't have a chance to share yet that we didn't cover?
I mean, what's coming through right now is trust yourself. Most of the things that I work with women about is honor that voice inside. Use your voice. Like somebody needs to hear it. There's a reason why that desire or that prompt is on your heart. Like it needs to be shared. Somebody needs that medicine. That's all. That's the download I just got.
That's right. Yeah.
It's so true. And I think all three of us have that in our heart. Like it's scary to say yes to the call of your soul when you don't know what's on the other side. But I've done it so many times, and I know you both have too, that it becomes this thing where it's like, I feel this obligation to support other women to say yes, because when we are in our most embodied selves and when we are sharing our gifts, like it's magnificent. The gifts that we have as embodied women is so important to what the world needs. And so I think sometimes we get into our heads like, who am I to share that? Or I'm not prepared enough, or I don't know enough. But if we just say yes, like you said, just say yes, trust yourself. It's already there. Like you are the gift, right? You are the gift. That's it. There's no preparing, because you are already who you are and you are the gift. So say yes, show up, trust yourself. And the more times you say yes, the more you'll feel like, oh, I did it before. I can keep doing it. And then you'll meet friends and you'll be like, do you want to say yes together to this? And then it becomes more fun. And then you can, so yeah, I'm excited for all the listeners to hopefully leave this conversation feeling inspired to offer their gifts and just be who they were born to be.
I was shaking. My body was like vibrating the whole time we were talking to Heidi. Something was attuning itself. It was very powerful. And I'm sweating. This just felt like an attunement, like like you must have been tantrically attuning me.
Your husband's gonna be excited to be with you after this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank
Love
you,
you.
Amber.
Love you.
Love you, Siri.
Love you guys. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
I think
Well,
that went
that
well.
was wonderful. I'm so honored and excited that you know Heidi and that you brought her in and that she was our first guest. And she's so everything you said. She's so wise. She's so embodied.
Yeah.
And I genuinely feel like I just attuned to all of her wisdom while we were in her presence. It was like very powerful.
Yay.
Yeah. And
Yeah. She's
and it's
amazing.
so fun to learn how to co-host with you because I'm so used to being the only one in charge of what's happening. And so to be able to do that with you, with your guest, was such a new, interesting experience. Thanks, Amber.
Oh, I had fun. Thank you. Yeah. I I had to like settle in the beginning. I was like, Amber, you're just having a conversation. Like, relax. This is just like a fun conversation. You know what I mean?
Because we want so much for it to be
Yeah.
of service and we want so much
Yeah.
for it to be helpful and potent for people and we're like, how can we give our best self? And then it's like what you just said. It's like you just drop and be here. That's all there is. Just breathe. Just be you,
Yeah.
like you
I
said.
I was listening to Kathy's I don't remember one of her most recent like podcast sessions. Um, and that's what kind of was my takeaway. Like I I think that what we're doing, when people will listen to this, like no doubt they'll leave feeling inspired or they'll leave feeling hopeful. They'll leave feeling like, oh, okay. And I, for so many years, did not see the value in what I brought
Mhm.
by just being who I was,
Yeah.
by the energy. She talks, Kathy talks a lot about energy, like we're energy and how, if you're hanging around really like negative, low vibe people, it's contagious. You start to feel like negative and low vibe. But if you're hanging around like really high vibe, inspired, turned on people, that starts to be contagious. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, well, shit, then I'm really valuable because I am, I have the energy of feeling inspired often. And so that's enough. You know what I mean? Like, I think we feel like we have to do more to be valuable.
Yeah.
Just being our energy of being an inspired person is
And
super
I
valuable.
love how Heidi was sharing about overfunctioning and that's the
Mm,
golden shadow. I never heard that before. Golden shadow.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yes.
That she's aware that that's her tendency is to overfunction and then every once in a while she'll catch herself and be like, okay, I can just be, what did she call it? An initiator,
Initiator and the
invite,
invitation.
yes.
Yeah.
Just an inviting presence and let the man or herself. And I like
Hmm.
how she was so honest about that she still has resistance. Like it's been a month since she did one of her practices. Was
Hmm.
it the sensual practice that she
Yep.
said, like she still has resistance around that? I love how honest she was about that because we
Yeah.
all have that resistance to doing the thing we know how to do that opens us to our most embodied self that like comes up for all of us and was like, oh, like even people who are experts at embodiment, they still have the resistance to doing the thing they know is going to put them in that space.
Yeah. That's I know. I love people like Heidi because she's done the work, she continues to do the work, she's dedicated, and she's also incredibly honest and
Hmm.
and outspoken about all of her experiences, which, it makes you feel safe to share what you're going through.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
this is we're never going to graduate. And
that's right. Yeah.
um, no, she's incredible. She really is. Um, I want to learn more about tantra. I'm like, I gotta start learning more about this. because
The
I've
way
heard
she
this word.
described it was very fascinating.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what were your thoughts about it, or what was your understanding of it before this conversation?
I thought that it was just like two people sitting across from each other and like putting your hands on each other's hearts and getting into your body and like connecting with all chakras and
Uh-huh.
just um holding orgasm and so that sex lasts so much longer and not orgasming for a really long time and that kind of a thing. That's kind of the extent of it for me.
Yeah.
Like sort of what you mentioned.
Yeah. I met this guy. This is like, I think it's after my first divorce. I met this guy at the Social Security office because I was changing my name on my Social Security card, and he was Swedish. And like he asked me out, and we went on a few dates, and he would like make out with me, but kind of not, but like never tried to have sex. And I was like, what the hell? And then I learned a little bit about tantra. I was like, I wonder if that's what he's trying to do right now. He didn't let me in on it if that's what was, but I feel like he was not trying to dive into the
Yeah,
finish line, you know?
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should wrap this up.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to include that part or not.
I
Um,
don't care.
okay, good.
I don't
Great.
care.
Love it.
Why not?
Um, so love you so much, Amber.
Love you too.
You inspire me so much. I feel like we bring out the best in each other
Yes.
and light each other up and I can't wait to meet our next guests and I'm so thrilled to share this episode with everyone. I hope that everyone gets something out of it like we wanted them to.
I think they will. I really do, because, let's face it, we all have sex. We all want to have sex. We all think about having sex. And so I love that it's just this conversation that we can have.
Yeah.
There's no shame in it. There's no taboo. It's, it's just a very honest, open conversation. And as embodied women, tapping into our own sensuality and sexuality is like incredibly important.
Yes. And that's how we heal, is we heal by telling our stories and by being open and honest and sharing. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. All right.
Okay.
See you
Have a
next time.
beautiful rest of your day. See you next
You
time.
too.